Hi, welcome to Quick Business Tips. I'm Jennifer Swineford, founder of Limitless Impact Agency, and this is the podcast for service-based business owners who want to grow their business without losing the heart behind it. Every week, I'm bringing you real practical strategies on marketing, sales, and customer experience. No fluff, no hustle culture nonsense, just what works. So let's get into it. I want to read two reviews to you for the same business. Review number one says, great experience, very professional, would highly recommend. And then we have the second review. Before I called, I already had three quotes and I was completely overwhelmed. I didn't know who to trust or whether the price that I had been quoted was even fair. From the first phone call, this company felt different. They walked me through every step, never made me feel like I was asking too many questions, and delivered exactly what they promised on time. I went from dreading this project to telling everyone I know to call them first. Now, both of these reviews are 5 stars, but which one makes you want to pick up the phone? This is a testimonial gap, and most service businesses don't even realize that this exists. They are doing the business of collecting the reviews because they've been told to. They're getting all the 5 star reviews, but it's the content in the reviews that are doing almost nothing to build trust with their next client. So today I want to walk you through how we can fix that. I'm going to show you one question that changes the quality of every review you receive from this point forward. And I promise it's easier than you think. But first, let's start with why most reviews don't really benefit anything. When you ask a happy client to leave a review, and that's all you say, it's completely open-ended. They are going to leave a fairly generic review in most cases that comes out along the lines of great work, very professional, would recommend. They mean it. They're happy, they're grateful, but they just don't know what else to say. So they pick the easy route. They use the most general language available. But comfortable and general don't close sales. Here's why. A few episodes ago, we talked about psychographics. We talked about how people make decisions based on emotion first and logic second. They hire you because of how they feel about you, not because of the features and benefits that you provide. A review that says professional and great work speaks to the logical side of the brain. It definitely checks the box. You're getting the 5 star review, and Google rewards you for that. But it doesn't make your next customer feel anything at all. However, when you get a review that said, I was so stressed I couldn't sleep the night before they started. And by the end of the first week, I was texting my friends telling them this was the best decision I'd made all year. That hits on an emotional level because the person reading it can see themselves in that story. The best testimonials are mini stories. They have a before, during, and after. They name the fear, the experience, the outcome, and they make your next customer think, that's me. That's where I am right now. And I want to be where they are right now. But here's the problem. Most of your customers don't naturally write that way when they're not asked to do anything specific other than leave a review. They need a gentle nudge, and that nudge, that responsibility of that nudge lies in your lap. So here's what I started doing and what I teach the clients that I work with to do. When you ask for a review, don't just send a link that says we'd love your feedback. Give them a starting point. Here's a question that works for a lot of businesses. Please leave a review. And when you write it, would you mind starting by remembering where you were before you called us? What the problem was you were dealing with, what you were worried about, and where you are now. That's it. 2 quick questions. And what comes back is completely different. So instead of great company, would recommend, you get a review that walks through the emotional journey that your next customer is about to take. It names the fear, the anxiety, the worry, the stress, the overwhelm, the frustration, whatever your past customer was feeling in the moment that your next customer feels right now. And then your past customer goes on to describe how it felt to work with you, and it paints a picture of their success at the end. There's a before, a during, and an after. Now, if this sounds familiar, it should, because this is in a lot of the frameworks that I teach. What you're really doing behind the scenes is asking the person leaving the review to describe their problem, the solution that you provided, and the change that they experienced in themselves, their home, their landscaping, whatever, that got them to the end result. You're not asking them to write a marketing piece, so don't lay it out for them the way I just laid it out for you. You're simply giving them a framework in between the lines, but you're asking them to just tell their story, their complete story, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And people really do love telling their story when someone gives them that opportunity and offers them a place to start. Now, it's important to remember that you are not putting words into their mouths. Do not tell them what to say. Don't ask them to use specific terms or words or anything like that. Just ask them to detail their experience in a way that is honest and completely theirs. The questions that you ask, as far as could you go back and remember where you were before you called and how you felt along the way and where you are now, is enough. Now let's talk a little bit about the timing of the review request. You want to ask for a review when your customer is at the peak of their experience, not long after the end of their experience with you. And again, this is ideal. If you haven't asked for a review from someone that you haven't worked with in the last 6 months, it doesn't mean you can't. But moving forward, do your best to request the review when they are feeling the absolute best. Most businesses ask for a review at the end of the project. After the final invoice goes out, the job is completed. And that's not wrong, but it's not optimal. The best time to ask is when they are at the peak of their experience with you. They're at the highest level of delight. The moment that your client is most excited, most relieved, most grateful. Now, for a contractor, that might be when the client sees the finished space for the first time, before they get the invoice, before you do the punch out list, before you have the wrap up conversation, right in that moment when their face lights up. For a realtor, it might be right at the closing table when they get handed the keys. For a landscaper, it might be the first time the customer steps outside and sees the way that you've transformed their yard. That is the exact moment when you should say, I'm so glad we could do this for you. Would you be willing to share your experience in a review? I'm sending you a link right now. If you could start by telling people where you were before you called us and where you are now, it would mean the world to us. Make it easy, make it personal. Then send them a direct link to your Google review page, not to your website. Don't ask them to search for you on Google. You need a link that takes them not only to your Google page, but opens up the box that allows them to leave a review. And it's ideal to include in the text message what you said to them in person so that they're not having to remember it. Simply say, when you write your review, please start by sharing where you were before you reached out to us and where you are now. And text messages work so much better than emails when you're looking to get reviews. They're faster, they're more personal, and they're much more likely to be read immediately while it still feels fresh. And a lot of people do feel that compulsion to respond to text messages right away, where in email they might flag it and come back to it. But they have the best intentions, but they never do. However, if you don't hear back from a review request within a few days, follow up. Always keep it warm. Wanted to make sure you got my message about the review. No pressure, but if you have a couple minutes, it would truly help us reach more people like you. That's it. You ask for help. You tell them why you want the help. It's not to grow your business. It's so that you can help more people just like them. There's no guilt. There's no pressure. It's clean and simple. Now, let's talk about what you can do with the reviews after you receive them. Because if it's just hanging on your Google page, that's great, but you have assets piling up that you are wasting. You can place these reviews on your website, not buried underneath the testimonial page that someone has to click on, but on your homepage near a call to action button. That's where like you can have scrolling reviews or you can have a couple static reviews because right there in that moment, they are deciding whether or not they are going to schedule a call, get a quote, call your company. And that's where what we call social proof does its best work. A great place to put reviews is also in your proposals. So when you're sending a quote to a client, include a couple testimonials that were in a similar situation. Do not include your generic 5-star reviews. But if you're able to collect reviews that are specific for, let's say, a kitchen remodel, then the next time you quote a kitchen remodel, include those reviews so that they can see that you have past clients that are speaking directly to the customer that you're sitting in front of. And of course, social media. When you have strong testimonials, you can pull out a piece of it for a quote, tell a before and after story, turn it into a post. It's best to use the reviewer's words and not your own, because there is absolutely no more credible content than a client describing their own experience in their own words. You can also put reviews into some of your follow-up email sequences, whether they're texts or emails. When you're checking back in with leads who haven't converted, you can put in some testimonials. And again, go back to those kind of before and after stories where you can outline what this customer was experiencing in your own words in more detail, and then leave the review in their words. Now, I want to close with something that I think is worth saying. When you do great work for someone, you are making a change in their lives. Maybe their home feels more like theirs. Maybe they have a huge financial decision that you helped them turn into a really good outcome, or they have a project that they were dreading that became something that they are so happy that they did. And that's a story that belongs to them. And when you invite them to share that story, you're not just collecting marketing assets. You're not collecting 5-star Google reviews. You're giving them a chance to help someone else who is exactly where they are before they contacted you. Now, really think about that for a second. Their review, well written, might be the thing that gives your next client the confidence to make the same call that they've been putting off, just like your past customer was. It might give them the confidence to trust someone with a project that they've been afraid to start. That's not marketing. That's generosity that gets multiplied exponentially. So be sure to ask for the reviews and ask with confidence because the story your clients have to tell is definitely worth sharing. Now, if you are someone who wants help building a complete testimonial strategy for your business, including how to ask, what to say, how to put your reviews to work across every part of the marketing for your business, I would love to talk to you. You can use a link in the show notes below or visit limitlessimpactagency.com to schedule a free strategy session. And if this episode gave you one thing that you're going to do different this week, even if it's just trying the before and after prompt with your next happy client when you're asking for a review, I would love to hear how that's working out for you. And if you feel so moved, share this episode with someone in your world who needs more or better reviews, because it might be the most useful thing you send them all month. If something landed for you today, I would be so appreciative if you'd share this episode with one person in your world who needs to hear it, because that's how this show will grow. And I am so grateful for every single share that is made. If you're ready to take what you learned today and put it into work to grow your business, I would absolutely love to talk to you. You can use the link in the show notes or visit limitlessimpactagency.com to schedule your free strategy session. We'll figure out exactly where you need to focus first, but until next week, go do something amazing.